IPEA is the Institute for Applied Economic Research, Brazilian government.
André de Melo Souza. I'm coordinator of international relations, also at IPEA, the Institute for Applied Economic Research.
Vishwanathan from the Observer Research Foundation, which is the Indian think tank.
Chose this theme, BRICS and Africa, partnership for development, integration, and industrialization. You do indicate, Chair, and Dr. Konde, Mr. Konde in his remarks, why this topic. I tried to explain, I think it was in Russia, in a bit of details, why as a host South Africa chose this topic. And I said, as far as we are concerned, was a continuum of what we discussed in Russia, what we discussed in Sanya and India. So we wanted to find a chord running through these themes, because BRICS is a new project. It's a young project. And we need to carefully nurture it and develop it with time. So we thought we should not lose the outcome of each summit. As we move from the other, we should not just cut. We should try to find a continuum of this project because of its immense potential for our people. So we know that all of us are battling with the question of development. We have inequalities in our societies. We have areas of poverty in our equalities. There are great aspirations from our people to see their life being bettered. So all of us, we have this challenge of development in various areas of life. And then integration. We are based in various regions. If you look at our regions, in Asia, in Russia and CIS countries, in South Africa and Africa, in Brazil and Latin America, we belong to certain regions. And these regions have to integrate. We need to integrate our economies. Much as we talk, rightly so, and correctly so, and deeply so, on deepening intra-BRICS cooperation, we belong to different sub-regions in the world. And I think we have similar challenges. We need to improve infrastructure, connectivity, and deepen intertrade in our own sub-regions. So the question of integration we saw it as a very, very important element. We can talk about our own neighborhood in Africa, where this should become prominent. Then industrialization. All of us, as Mr. Kondo was saying, we're at a different level of development, but we have to industrialize. One way of improving the lives of our people, of dealing with inequality in our own societies, of giving hope, lasting hope to our people, is to industrialize. Now, it has its own dimension, and you as academics, you as thinkers, you have to really help us how to deal with this issue in a great way and how to sustain it. And that's why we chose this topic in this way. Well, as Africans, we are in our neighborhood, hence we say it BRICS and Africa. But also we are conscious that throughout history, people gathered here have been the bulwark of anti-colonial struggles. You have assisted anti-colonial struggles everywhere in the world, including in the continent. You gave support. You went all out of your areas to support people during the time of decolonization and fighting against apartheid. So we see in this collective friends of developing countries, friends for human development. We see in this collective a possibility that people who don't have voices can be heard and can be given the chance to grow and prosper. And that is why, if you recall, in 2009 in Russia, the summit asked you to have a regular meeting of academics so that we can help us to shape this project called BRICS. We went to Sanya again. In Sanya, they called, not only academic, in Sanya they called for a regular meeting of think tanks. So it's not academic just generally speaking, but is this brain thrust that can be asked to come to the party and assist the leaders of BRICS to deal with these questions, but to have empirical evidence, to have research on which we can develop our policies. Looking into this project, strategically look a bit higher there so that they can make sure that things moves. He'll be with you on. And friends from Brazil, Russia, India, China, you have South African brains here. Please interact with them. We try to bring colleagues here. We've been focusing in these areas. So we hope for a very fruitful deliberations and outcome. Thanks, co-directors.
Clear think tank. The English.
Well, the BRICS itself is a product of intellectual effort, because the acronym was invented even before the countries started to cooperate with each other. And actually the intellectuals, the academics, were always on the forefront. Mind you that the first meeting of BRICS and then BRIC think tanks was gathered in Moscow in 2008, even before the first summit. So this tradition continued, and we are very happy now that we have in the 5th BRICS Academic Summit forum here in Durban. And preceding it, we had a workshop where we exchanged in a very constructive and positive manner our ideas on the future development of this mechanism, making it sort of track 2 for the governments, for producing some kind of recommendations, for discussing things, maybe finding solutions that the diplomats cannot find. And so we agreed on the establishment of the BRICS Think Tanks Council, which will be a mechanism for permanent cooperation between the think tanks, designated think tanks of the 5 countries. Will be a platform for exchanges and gathering academic forum. So I think that is a very big step forward for institutionalization of both academic exchanges, and maybe that would pave the way for further enhancing of cooperation within BRICS itself.
I think think tank cooperation between the BRICS countries is very important and is a part of the practical cooperation among BRICS countries, because the think tanks will provide policy advice to the respective countries.
另外，金砖国家智库在一起，大家就金砖国家面临的一些重大战略问题、经济社会问题进行广泛的交流，取得相关的共识，对于推动金砖国家智库的金砖国家的务实发展将会起到良好的推动作用。
I think it is very meaningful that think tanks from the 5 countries can sit together to discuss about strategic issues and socio-economic issues, because that will promote and facilitate cooperation between BRICS countries in different areas in the future.
另外，这个金砖国家智库会议在每年领导人会晤之前召开，作为领导人会晤的重要配套活动，可以烘托领导人会晤的气氛，为领导人会晤营造一个良好的舆论环境。
Each year, the think tank forum or the academic forum and think tank meeting takes place before the summit meeting, I think it helps to create a sound atmosphere for the leaders' meeting and also attract a lot of public attention.
这一次金砖国家智库德班会议的举办，它最重要的一项成果就是大家同意启动金砖国家智库理事会这一项进程，这对进一步加强金砖国家智库这样的合作起到一个良好的推动作用。
I think the biggest achievement in the past 1.5 days of workshop is that the think tanks present here have decided to launch the BRICS Think Tank Council. That will be a very important step in promoting think tank cooperation.
这个金砖国家智库理事会的成立，它搭建了一个平台，以供金砖国家智库就这个共同研究、知识分享和能力建设提供了一个平台。
Because I think the BRICS Think Tank Council serves as a platform for facilitating research, knowledge sharing, and capacity building.
I would like to begin by saying that this think tank or the track 2 or academic, whatever you want to call it, this activity is, the robustness of this activity is very unique to BRICS as compared to many other multilateral organizations. In fact, this kind of intellectual and academic activity does not exist for, let's say, G20 or the G8 or anything. And this is only logical because BRICS is such a new organization. It's still in the form of evolution. The agenda is still flexible and evolving. And therefore, there are new ideas needed to bring to the table to take BRICS forward. BRICS itself now is thinking of having an alternative discourse to issues like sustainable development, growth, and other issues. So we want to bring a new narrative. So there is a lot of intellectual and academic activity needed. That is why the think tank activity becomes very important for BRICS. Now, having said that, you would know that before each summit there is an academic forum where the academics and the think tank representatives meet, and we discuss a lot of issues which dovetails into the main agenda of the summit, and we come up with recommendations. And we are very happy that in all the summits, almost 80 to 90% of the recommendations of the academic fora are taken into account in the final declaration. And that is very heartening to this kind of activity because we are taken seriously by the leaders. Coming to this interaction, the South Africans have divided this academic fora, they have expanded it. Normally it is for 2 days and it actually begins on Monday. But the last 2 days we have been discussing on expanding the scope of the academic fora and the collaboration between the think tanks. We are thinking of forming a kind of a council or association, you can call it whatever, but some kind of a coordination. Why this is needed is to make further progress in the kind of interface between the academic fora or our think tank activities and the summit level. We must create a kind of pipeline that our ideas and the things we discuss and the discourse that we have flows naturally through the pipeline to the officials and the leaders, because that will be a great input to them. So yesterday and today we discussed and we have made a lot of progress. So we intend to sign a declaration of forming a kind of a council among the various think tanks of the 5 countries for further coordination and further enhancement of our research.
I think it is very important for the summit leaders to actually have a group of organizations that are in each country to come together to form a think tank. And that think tank that is set up is supposed to help to advise the summit on the strategic direction of the BRICS, as well as identifying some indicators that would be able to measure progress of the BRICS countries in terms of what it is that they are doing. We are an important group in the sense that we have to take the information that's available in all of the 5 countries, synthesize it, and put it together as advice to the summit leaders. And they can decide which ones they would like to be able to use. What was achieved in the last 2 days was consensus on the formation of the BRICS Think Tank Council, which comprises of 5 think tanks, each one from the countries that are included in BRICS. We've been able to agree on the actual structure of it in a broad sense. The broad sense here, I'm talking about understanding our relationship as think tanks with the academic forum, that we as the think tank will coordinate the academic forum and ensure that the agenda for the academic forum and the think tank are aligned with what the leaders are wanting to do. We also agreed that we have work that we have to do in between the summits. We will start with putting together a document on the vision of BRICS, which was started in India. We have now incorporated the comments from South Africa. We'll incorporate the comments from other countries, and we then are going to have a document that can be discussed sometime in October.
Well, the think tanks are a set of 5 institutions from each country, which were nominated by our governments, at least in the case of Brazil, that's how it did. And we are supposed to be the links between our government or our leaders and the academic area. We, at least in our case, it's up to the think tank, which I represent, to nominate and identify the members of the Brazilian delegation to the academic forum, to quote-unquote coordinate research efforts or centralize and sponsor research with regard to issues that are linked to the BRICS negotiations. And it is expected that the academic think tank or the academic area will provide research and guidance and suggestions that may become policy orientation in the medium to long term. This is what this exercise is all about. It has started with a concern from the negotiators with regard to a more significant participation of the civil society in this process of forming something called BRICS, which is still work in progress. And as it turned out, it has focused in 2 legs, businesses and the academics. And we are the think tanks of the links with the academic world. In these last 2 days, we have been discussing the formation of a think tank council, which is a first step toward the formalization of relations among our 5 institutions, and a first step towards identifying how can we act together and mobilize the researchers in our countries as well as elsewhere. This is what was the aim of this exercise in these 2 days.
How important is a think tank for BRICS?
I think very much so, because we, as I said, are the, let's call it the academic arm of the BRICS, or part of the academic arm. We are supposed to foster and stimulate studies and research with issues related to the BRICS, and to bring that into more formal environment via the academic forum towards our leaders.